Admiral Zirek of the Centaurian Collective stood motionless before the vast observation window of the Galactic Council's primary chamber, her crystalline form refracting the light of distant stars. The emergency session had been called after the incident in the thorax sector, and now every major species representative waited for her report on what many were calling the traitor's gambit. "We have grossly misunderstood the humans," she began, her voice resonating through the chamber. "For decades, we thought their technological advancement was their greatest asset. We were wrong. Their deadliest weapon isn't their ships, their guns, or even their remarkable adaptability. It's something far more insidious." The assembled representatives shifted uncomfortably. The thorax incident had shaken the galactic community to its core, not because of its violence, but because of its complete lack thereof. 3 cycles earlier, a group of Drachnid raiders had attempted to seize a human trading vessel in neutral space. It should have been a simple operation. The human ship was outgunned, outnumbered, and carried valuable minerals from the outer colonies. Instead, it became a watershed moment in galactic politics. The human vessel, the Trading Post Alpha, was commanded by Captain Reena Patel. Zirek continued. When confronted by the raiders, she did something unprecedented. She invited them aboard for coffee. A murmur of confusion rippled through the chamber. The Varaxian delegate raised a tentacle. Clarification requested. "What is coffee?" "A stimulant beverage humans consume socially," Zirek explained. "But that's not the important part. The important part is that the raiders accepted." The recording played behind her. Captain Patel, a short human with graying hair and laugh lines around her eyes, welcoming armed raiders onto her ship with genuine warmth, offering them drinks, snacks, and asking about their families. The raiders, clearly confused but unable to resist human hospitality, found themselves sitting in the ship's mess hall, discussing their financial troubles over steaming mugs. Within 6 hours, Zirek continued, Captain Patel had not only convinced the raiders to abandon their attack, but had also helped them draft a business plan for a legitimate interstellar shipping company. She offered to be their mentor and provided them with contact information for human investment firms specializing in startup ventures. The chamber erupted in shocked whispers. The Drachnid ambassador's scales flushed deep purple with embarrassment. "But here's what should truly concern us." Zirek's voice cut through the chaos. "Our subsequent investigation revealed that the Trading Post Alpha's cargo hold contained not just minerals, but enough firepower to reduce the raider fleet to cosmic dust. The humans knew about the planned raid weeks in advance. They had multiple defense options available. Instead, they chose to make allies out of enemies." The mechanoid representative's lights pulsed in confusion. Query: why would humans choose a tactically inferior solution? Because Zirek's crystalline form dimmed slightly. They understand something that none of us did. The most effective way to eliminate an enemy is to turn them into a friend. And humans are terrifyingly good at making friends. She gestured to another display, showing the former raiders' current status. Their shipping company was now profitable. They had hired crews from 3 different species, and they were vocal advocates for human cooperation in their sector. "This isn't an isolated incident," Zirek continued. "Our intelligence suggests that humanity has been doing this consistently since their entrance into galactic society. They don't just defeat their opponents, they convert them. Not through force or coercion, but through genuine connection and practical assistance." The Hive Mind Collective's representative buzzed thoughtfully. "They weaponized kindness." "No," Zirek corrected. "They weaponized sincerity. Every human gesture of friendship is genuine. They actually want to help. They really do care about the welfare of other species. And that, colleagues, is what makes them so dangerous. How do you defend against an enemy who genuinely wants to become your friend? Who will fight to the death if necessary, but would rather help you improve your life?" The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The recordings continued to play. Humans helping former adversaries, solving long-standing conflicts with simple solutions, No one had considered turning pirates into traders and warriors into peacekeepers. The humans have a saying, Zirok concluded, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. But they've modified it. They keep turning their enemies into friends, and then they keep those friends forever. Their deadliest weapon isn't their ability to wage war. It's their unlimited capacity for turning conflict into cooperation. As the emergency session concluded, the representatives filed out, many already drafting reports to their governments. The galaxy was just beginning to understand. Humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their ability to destroy. It was their relentless, sincere, terrifyingly effective desire to befriend everyone they met. And there was no defense against it. First Officer Kovacs of the Regelian Defense Force was having the worst day of his career. Standing before the holoscreen in the fleet's command center, he watched as the impossible unfolded. There, throwing a party, he clicked his mandibles in disbelief. Not just any party. His intelligence officer responded, her antennae twitching nervously. A peace summit disguised as a cultural exchange festival. In the middle of a potential war zone, the situation in the Nexus corridor had been deteriorating for months. 3 different species were claiming the same resource-rich sector, and everyone expected the humans to stake their own claim. Instead, they'd parked a massive station right in the middle of the disputed space and declared it a neutral zone for cultural appreciation and cooperative development. The station, officially named Unity Point, looked more like a luxury resort than a military installation. Yet Kovacs' scanners indicated it had enough defensive capability to withstand a small armada. The humans hadn't mentioned this fact to anyone. They didn't need to. Update from our infiltration team, the intelligence officer announced. The humans are teaching everyone how to dance. Together. Multiple species. At the same time. Kovacs' thorax hurt. Explain. The holoscreen showed various alien species awkwardly attempting human dance moves. A Xerillian ambassador, known for his species' aggressive territorial disputes, was attempting something called the Macarena alongside his traditional rivals. They're also offering free business development workshops, the intelligence officer continued. Something called Cooperative Resource Management 101. And cooking classes. Cooking classes, Kovacs repeated flatly. Yes, sir. They're teaching different species how to prepare food for each other, taking into account all biological differences and dietary requirements. They've somehow made it fun. The screen shifted to show a massive kitchen where representatives from traditionally hostile species were working together to create multicultural dishes. A human chef was enthusiastically praising a drachnid's attempt at making sushi. This is their response to a territorial crisis, Kovacs demanded, teaching mortal enemies to cook for each other. There's more, sir. They're offering free consulting services to help all parties develop the disputed resources together. They've drawn up proposals for joint ventures, profit-sharing agreements, and sustainable development practices that benefit everyone involved. Kovacs' tactical display chirped. Another dozen ships had just dropped out of hyperspace near Unity Point. But instead of military vessels, they were civilian craft from all 3 disputing species, arriving for what the humans were calling the first annual Nexus Corridor Cooperation Festival. Sir, his communications officer interrupted, we're receiving an invitation. They want us to participate in something called a trust fall exercise. Before Kovacs could respond, another alert sounded. His crew stared in shock as the station's true capabilities became briefly visible. A power surge had revealed defensive systems far beyond anything they'd imagined. Then, just as quickly, the systems were hidden again, almost as if the humans had wanted them to see. They're not even trying to hide their strength, Kovacs realized. They're just choosing not to use it. The intelligence officer nodded. According to our psychological warfare experts, this is the most sophisticated intimidation tactic we've ever encountered. They're demonstrating overwhelming power by hosting a party. The holoscreen showed more images. trade agreements being signed in between dance lessons, peace treaties drafted over shared meals, and centuries-old enemies laughing together at human jokes. Unity Point had become exactly what its name suggested, and it happened so naturally that no one had noticed the masterful manipulation behind it all. "The humans have a saying," the intelligence officer added. "You catch more flies with honey than vinegar." We didn't understand it until now. They're not just preventing a war, sir. They're making it impossible for anyone to want one. Kovacs watched as a human diplomat taught a group of various species something called the wave, creating a rippling motion of arms, tentacles, and appendages moving in perfect harmony. "Send a response to that invitation," he finally ordered. Tell them we'd be honored to attend their festival. And," he hesitated, mandibles clicking thoughtfully, "ask them if there's still space in those cooking classes." As his officers scrambled to comply, Kovacs understood what Admiral Zirek had tried to warn the Council about. The humans weren't just changing the rules of engagement, they were changing the very nature of conflict itself. And they were doing it with smiles, handshakes, and an apparently endless supply of party snacks. "One more thing, sir," the intelligence officer added. "They're calling it preventative diplomacy through participatory celebration. According to our analysts, it's working better than any military strategy in recorded history." Kovacs watched as more ships arrived, each filled with curious representatives eager to participate in humanity's grand experiment in peace-building. The humans had taken a potential war zone and turned it into the galaxy's most popular social event. And somehow, they'd made everyone think it was their own idea to attend. "Update the report to High Command," Kovacs ordered. "Tell them." He paused, watching as a human taught a Xyrillian how to fist bump a drachnid. "Tell them we're dealing with something far more dangerous than weapons. We're dealing with people who've mastered the art of making peace fun. The galaxy would never be the same." And somehow, everyone was oddly okay with that. The swarm queen of the Vex Collective was furious. Her massive high ship, surrounded by hundreds of battle cruisers, hung in space before Unity Point Station. The humans had gone too far this time. "They're corrupting the natural order," she hissed to her generals. "First the Drachnids, then the Regellians, and now they've even got the Xyrillians practicing something called yoga together. This ends today." The Vex had watched with growing alarm as humanity's influence spread across the galaxy. Their philosophy of endless conquest was being undermined by human concepts like mutual prosperity and sustainable cooperation. It was time for decisive action. "Your Majesty," her lead strategist buzzed nervously, "the humans are hailing us. They're inviting us to something called a community development workshop. Ignore them. Prepare the attack formation. There's more. They're offering to help us transform our conquest-based economy into a service-based one. They prepare a complete presentation on leveraging hive mind efficiency for galactic consulting services." The Queen's antenna twitched. "What?" The main screen activated, showing the human presentation. Charts, graphs, and projections demonstrated how the Vex could make more resources through peaceful consulting than through conquest. The numbers were compelling. "Deploy the first wave," the Queen commanded, pushing aside her momentary doubt. "Show them the true might of the Vex." But as her ships advanced, something strange happened. Unity Point's defenses remained inactive. Instead, every screen in her fleet suddenly displayed the same message. "Before you proceed, we thought you might want to see this." What followed was a comprehensive data dump of every failed invasion in Vex history, complete with detailed analysis of why they failed, and more disturbingly, how they could have succeeded through peaceful means. The humans had apparently been studying Vex history more carefully than the Vex themselves. "This is psychological warfare," the Queen declared. "Actually," a calm human voice responded, "this is just good business advice. By the way, we've taken the liberty of calculating the cost-benefit analysis of this attack. Would you like to see the spreadsheets?" Spreadsheets. The Queen's one weakness. Her species' mathematical obsession was legendary. "Show me," she found herself saying, even as her generals buzzed in protest. Hours later, the Vex fleet remained in position, but its queen was deep in conversation with human financial advisors about transitioning her conquest-based empire into a galaxy-wide logistics and optimization consulting firm. "You mean we could make more resources by helping other species become more efficient?" she asked, compound eyes gleaming with interest. "Exactly," the human advisor beamed. "Your hive mind structure makes you perfect for consulting. You could revolutionize galaxy-wide supply chain management." The Queen's generals watched in horror as their mighty leader began taking notes on sustainable business practices and ethical profit maximization. The humans had done it again, without firing a single shot. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been running for 3 days straight. The topic: how to handle the human situation. Ambassador Xrill of the Mechanoid Consensus stood before the assembly, projecting his findings. "The data is undeniable. Since humanity's aggressive friendship strategy began, galactic conflict has decreased by 73.4%. Economic cooperation has increased by 891%. And most disturbing of all, interspecies wedding ceremonies have risen by 2,456%. The chamber erupted in murmurs. On the main display, images cycled through. Former war fleets converted into trade convoys, ancient enemies attending each other's cultural festivals, and the newest phenomenon, multi-species business startups. The humans call it the network effect. Xrill continued. Each species they befriend becomes a node in their friendship network, which then influences others to join. It's exponential growth. At current rates, there won't be any significant conflicts left to resolve within 5 years. The Arcturian representative raised a glowing appendage. "But surely this is positive. Peace and prosperity are spreading." "That's what they want us to think," Ambassador Tulloch of the Shadow Conclave interjected. "But look deeper. The humans are building the largest empire in galactic history, and they're doing it without conquering anyone. They're simply making themselves so useful, so helpful, and so annoyingly friendly that everyone voluntarily aligns with them." The evidence was compelling. The former Vex Queen, now CEO of HiveMind Solutions LLC, was revolutionizing logistics across 3 spiral arms. The Drachnid Raiders had become the galaxy's premier business consultants. Even the notoriously isolationist Crystal Kingdoms were hosting interspecies cultural exchanges. "They're not just changing politics," Xrill warned. "They're changing cultures. Species that never worked together are now collaborating on massive engineering projects. Traditional enemies are becoming business partners. And everyone is attending these ridiculous human team-building exercises." The display showed the latest phenomenon, a galaxy-wide sporting event humans had organized called the Interstellar Olympics. Species that once fought wars were now competing to see who could throw small objects the furthest or move the fastest from point A to point B. "It's genius, really," Tulloch admitted grudgingly. "They've gamified peace, made cooperation entertaining, turned mutual prosperity into a competitive sport. How do you fight an enemy that makes peace more exciting than war?" The council chambers fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity wasn't just changing the galaxy, they were making everyone enjoy the change. And that was the scariest part of all. 10 years after the Vex incident, Admiral Zirak stood once again before the Galactic Council, delivering her final report before retirement. "We were right to be worried about humanity's deadliest weapon," she began, her crystalline form glowing softly. "We just didn't understand what that weapon truly was." The chamber, now 3 times larger to accommodate all member species, hummed with anticipation. "We thought their weapon was friendship. We were wrong. Their true weapon was hope, the hope that tomorrow could be better than today, that ancient enemies could become allies, that different species could work together for common good. And they weaponized that hope through relentless, practical optimism. The main display showed the galaxy as it now existed. Trade routes crisscrossing between formerly hostile territories, multi-species colonies thriving on terraformed worlds, and the latest achievement, the Great Gallery, a massive space station where all species shared their art, culture, and scientific discoveries freely. The humans call it compound interest of goodwill, Zira continued. Each positive interaction builds trust, which enables more cooperation, which creates more positive interactions. It's a self-reinforcing cycle that's transformed our galaxy. She gestured to the latest statistics. Conflict was now at historic lows, trade at historic highs, and scientific advancement accelerating exponentially through cross-species collaboration. But here's what we never saw coming, she added. They're not building an empire. They're building a community. And they're doing it so naturally that we've all become willing participants in our own transformation. The evidence was everywhere. The Vex Queen's consulting firm had revolutionized galactic logistics. The former Drachnid raiders now ran the largest peacekeeping training academy in known space. Even the mechanoids had developed a sense of humor, though their jokes needed work. In conclusion, Zirac's crystal form pulsed with amusement. Humanity's deadliest weapon wasn't their ability to make friends. It was their ability to make everyone believe in a better future, and then show them practical steps to build it. She paused, looking around the chamber, and the truly terrifying part, it works. It works better than any weapon, any strategy, any empire-building approach we've ever seen. They've achieved what countless species tried to do through force. They've united the galaxy. Not through conquest, but through PowerPoint presentations, team-building exercises, and an infinite supply of snacks. As the council session ended, representatives filed out, many heading to Unity Point for the latest human initiative. A galaxy-wide festival combining art, science, and something called karaoke. In her private chambers, Zirac recorded one final note for her successor. Remember this. The humans didn't conquer the galaxy. They didn't need to. They just made everyone want to work together. And they did it so cleverly that we all thought it was our idea. That's not just diplomacy. That's weaponized hope. And against that, no defense is possible or necessary. She paused, then added, P.S. Don't miss the karaoke night. The Vex Queen does an amazing rendition of Don't Stop Believin'. The galaxy had indeed changed, and somehow, everyone was happier for it.